IQ, numbers here, numbers there. What do they mean? Let's break it down now. Stick around, it gets interesting. At the end, you'll see where these numbers come from. Let's step onto the IQ scale at the lower end and work our way up, one range at a time. Range under 70, very low. At this end of the spectrum lies a condition often misunderstood and too often mistreated. It isn't a choice or a moral failure, but usually biological in origin. The field calls it intellectual disability. Common pathways include genetic causes, birth complications, or severe brain injuries. The architecture of thinking here is different. Abstract links and longer chains of cause and effect are hard to hold. Language is often simple. The bridge from yesterday to today is short. Planning and adapting to change become steep hills. But the present is strong. The world arrives through the senses, the warmth of a hand, the steady light in a familiar place, the comfort of a known smell. What is shown and repeated sticks. Rituals become guardrails. Clear cues become maps. For a long time, people in this range were hidden or exploited. Our view is changing. A life is not measured only by abstract thought, but by depth of experience. With reliable support, respect, and love, solid relationships and full days are built. They remind us, before we were clever, we were aware. The core of being human is not only thinking, but also feeling. Range 70 to 79, borderline. This is the narrow corridor just above the clinical threshold. Often overlooked, too quickly mistaken for laziness or lack of will. Clinically, it's called borderline intellectual functioning, a range with limited thinking bandwidth and noticeably less mental reserve. Abstract instructions are a hurdle. When directions are only words or symbols show up without examples, the order slips, not because will is missing, but because thinking needs time, clear markers, and above all, practice. Here, the intelligence of the practical world comes alive. Learning happens through repetition, hands-on doing, muscle memory. An essay may be hard, but an intuitive feel for mechanics, a steady hand in care work, or a natural way with animals can flourish. People in this range thrive in structured settings with clear routines, workshop, stockroom, meticulously organized kitchen. Problem solving is concrete and immediate. Fix what's broken right in front of you. These strengths keep communities running. Reliability, care, quiet persistence, the dependable neighbor, the committed colleague. A school system that rewards only one kind of intelligence often overlooks them. With structure, respect, and a pace that fits, they find their indispensable place. This range doesn't say less, it says different. Learn differently, deliver safely, and be valuable in ways no metric truly measures. Range 80 to 89, low, average. Welcome to the zone of practical sense. Quiet, reliable, often underestimated. The thinking room is there. The tempo is steadier. Energy flows where there's clarity. Complex rules or dense text can be demanding. The key is the concrete. Show me, then I get it. A practical example before the theory, and the knot loosens. Under time pressure or multi-step tasks, things can wobble. With clear order, visible checkpoints, and no rush, performance turns stable and dependable. You meet this profile in roles with clear routines where care and consistency matter. Care work, service, logistics, quality control. It's the backbone of many teams, marked by patience and kind steadiness. The invisible barrier often comes from school. You're not keeping up. The issue is seldom will, usually pace. When the pace is understood and structure is in place, the result is reliability. This range doesn't say too little. It says, give me a clear task, and I'll build you something solid. Our world runs not only on minds at the top, but on the steady strength of those who keep it going, day after day. Range 90 to 109. Average. Here is the pulse of everyday life, the broad middle that keeps things running. People in this range have the thinking room and pace that fit work, family, and daily demands. Rules make sense. Plans are made. Mistakes are corrected. Steady and reliable. They shine where weighing options, setting priorities, and bringing order to chaos are needed. A core strength is learning by connection. New ideas stick when they tie into something known through concrete examples or clear comparisons. A typical challenge is a mental comfort zone. A headline or first impression can feel like full understanding until added information adjusts the picture. That's not a flaw. It's the simple truth that depth takes time and deliberate effort. You'll find this profile wherever people and processes are coordinated: administration, care work, team operations, service roles. It's the intelligence of workable balance, reliable, adaptable, the connective tissue of society. Range 1 to 10 to 1 to 19. High average. Here, the tempo picks up. Patterns show earlier, priorities sort themselves, and decisions land more grounded. New information isn't just taken in, it's quickly woven into what's already known. Complex matters can be brought cleanly to the point, often without much runway. The core strength is making structure out of complexity, bundle information, separate signal from noise, shape solutions that are not only right but workable. Conversations lean less on opinion and more on reasons. The challenge isn't understanding, it's pace. When too much arrives at once, the mind runs ahead and small conditions get missed. Simple fixes bring precision back. Tap the brakes, trace the thread once more, do a quick cross-check. You see this profile in dynamic fields: project coordination, analysis, team leadership, consulting. These are the agile control centers, people who keep the overview, pair speed with care, and get initiatives rolling. Range 1 to 20 to 1 to 29. Superior. Here thinking becomes not just faster but deeper and more flexible. Patterns surface early, analogies pop, and counter-arguments are considered from the start. New information slots neatly into a dense web of what's already known. Complexity is translated into clear, usable models. Switching between the big map and fine detail comes naturally. The core strength. Structure creates speed. Name assumptions. Weigh options. Run scenarios. Anticipate downstream effects. And shape solutions that work in reality. The learning curve is often steep, with a knack for bringing others along by breaking complexity into clear, digestible steps. The risk is locking things in too quickly, setting structure before it's ripe, skipping intermediate steps, getting impatient when the room moves slower. Antidotes: mark assumptions, hunt counterexamples, test models in the real world. You see this where thinking meets execution, project and product work, analysis, concept and research roles, system and process architecture. It keeps the overview, orders precisely, and gets things moving. This range is the bridge from insight to execution. With a modest tone and concrete examples, it turns theory into effective practice. Range 130 and above, very superior. Here, model thinking becomes second nature. Patterns don't just show up, they cohere into a larger whole. Hypotheses form, counterpoints are anticipated, and chains of consequence are weighed, often long before they appear in daily life. New information isn't added piece by piece, it's woven into the existing web. The strength is transfer. A principle from domain A suddenly works in domain B. From scattered parts comes a workable theory, one that explains, predicts, and can be shown with evidence. Complex problems are reframed until they're solvable. The challenge is less logic than accessibility. Pace and abstraction can drop the room. What feels finished here often still needs examples and intermediate steps for others. You'll see this profile where foresight meets execution, strategy, research, product and process architecture, system design, teaching, and mentoring. Impact grows when depth meets the ability to translate it. Not an ivory tower, a control room that sees paths before they're visible and makes complexity graspable so others don't just follow. They join in. Range 145 and above, the rarest. At the very top, it gets lonely. Roughly about 0.1% of the population. Beyond 160, extremely rare cases. Here, it's no longer about spotting patterns, but compressing them until a load-bearing principle remains. Problems are reframed until they become solvable. When old forms are too tight, new terms, notations, and methods are created. New knowledge isn't added on, it's built into the structure. The signature strength is second-order transfer. Not just that principle A fits domain B, you see why it fits, and what flips if a core assumption shifts. Cascading effects, edge cases, constraints, all tracked at once. While others hunt the best shortcut, this mind redraws the map. The biggest hurdle isn't logic, it's communication. Most effective as an architect of the new, fundamental research, system and process architecture, crisis strategy, theory, and long-range work. Impact appears when deep insight meets language that lands. That's when peak performance becomes shared strength. At the lower edge of the scale, people often feel left behind. The world is too fast and too word-heavy. At the upper end, the mirror image, others get left behind by speed and depth. The outcome feels similar, no real belonging. The distribution of IQ scores follows a clear pattern. The large majority, about half of all people, sit in the middle, between 90 and 109. Moving outward, it thins quickly. 80 to 89 and 110 to 119 each account for about 16%. 70 to 79 and 120 to 129, about 6% each. Only around about 2% fall under 70 or in the 130 to 144 range. And beyond 145, it becomes extremely rare, about 0.1%, roughly 1 person in 1,000. But how does this number, the intelligence quotient, actually come about? Before we continue, a small ask. Help the channel grow. Subscribe. It's free and you won't miss an episode. Thanks. The intelligence quotient is determined by a test, not online but in person, with a trained professional, standardized in a quiet setting and with the same instructions for everyone. What's measured isn't a single number, but a profile of building blocks. Verbal comprehension, vocabulary and concepts, logical fluid reasoning, tackling new problems, working memory, the mental notepad, processing speed, how fast information lands, visuospatial skills, seeing and rotating shapes in mind. Some tasks are timed, others about accuracy. Total time is usually 60 to 90 minutes. From those answers come points. They're compared with results from many people of the same age. That comparison builds the scale. Picture 100 same-age people standing in a line, from the lowest to the highest result. The IQ number tells where someone stands in that line, and above 100 equals ahead of most, below 100 equals behind most. 100 is simply the marker for the middle, with a small margin around the number because measurements aren't millimeter exact. It's a snapshot that can vary with day-to-day factors: fatigue, acute stress, health, language, vision or hearing, certain medications. Alongside the overall score, the report lists subscores for each area. That pattern, the profile, describes strengths and dips more precisely than the single number. Most people sit in the middle of the scale, some at the edges, but everyone deserves space, respect, and a place. That's how differences turn into belonging.